took 30 hours a week, leaving the other 50 to be spent on other things. And most of my life I have sort of felt that that was simply an obligation that one did as a member of the scientific world. And to come back to Frank Ritter's question, and within that one sort of decided whether in fact you spend more time on institution building and less time on being members of programming committees and so forth. You sort of make little weights. So in fact it has been a big part of my life, and so now I got to redeem myself, and I'm very proud of it. Okay, I'm really proud of this environment, and I'm really proud of the way it's developed. But it isn't that goal out there. And somehow you got to deal with the diversions, and that's really the story of this talk. That there are these diversions, they're real, they're big, they're massive, and you got to keep living a long time, and you got to keep coming back to work at that goal. Now for the question.
The question was, you talked about technique as living on. Aren't there domains in which the discovery itself is what lives on, and not the technique? You actually discovered something?
No. I mean, I think there are fields that think there are, but I think in fact that in fact discoveries that don't develop into technique. I mean, this is a terrible thing to say. I'm going to. I have to just reestablish concepts of this. If a domain can't get beyond having just discoveries, if it can't get to where it can convert those to being things that solve problems that scientists want to solve for their science, then that science is in fact in a pre-paradigm stage. It's in a very early stage. I mean, ideas and discoveries in physics and chemistry and biology all get converted routinely into things you can do later. Things that help you to actually do things, like find solutions to diseases, or build new devices, or build calculations that you can make. Now there are fields that don't have that. And in fact, a field like sociology has got itself a real problem, since it does have a level of technique, like path analysis and so forth. That technique doesn't go to the heart of the science at all, and it doesn't have the corresponding techniques that come out of the deep conceptual structure, and so it's kind of caught. And so psychology with analysis of variance is, at least has been in the past, sort of caught on that same thing, in which the level at which it has technique doesn't penetrate to the level at which it needs its theory. And its theory doesn't translate into calculations and other techniques that it can use. That's my answer. You may wish to dispute.
Yeah, the people who've taken you to your espousing sort of single life goal are...
I didn't espouse it.
That you described.
Yeah, I mean, I said that's me,
that's right.
But I said there were lots of other things too.
Right to my question, actually. Those people were very exceptional people. And I guess sort of a two-part question. One, to what degree do you think that taking that approach may enable one to be exceptional? And secondly, to what degree is it inappropriate for the vast majority of to strive for this kind of goal?
I'm going to give you the NFL answer. Late in your career, it's different. Late in your career, we all understand we're journeymen, okay? But early in your career, if you're out there playing in the NFL, or if you're in here playing as a young researcher, you'd better believe that, in fact, you've got it and you're going to make it. Now, it will turn out that almost nobody will. It will turn out that SOAR's all wrong, okay? And consequently, it will turn out that 20 years from now, SOAR is one of those forgettable things. And so the path that I followed did not lead. I mean, it's all rational analysis or whatever it turns out to be, okay? It did not lead to what I thought was the path. Then I will be another forgettable scientist. Okay? So I do think, as with any other concentration, I do believe that if you focus and you're lucky enough to be in the right direction, then you have increased chances. Okay? On the other hand, there are increased risks. On the other hand, I never had to face that question. And that's part of this issue of saying the thing chooses you. I never decided Well, I know you got to be a little careful. I decided to be an optical engineer with a passion. Okay? And so, in fact, maybe I was just a setup waiting to be in printer. And it turned out Oliver got there first. All the other ones sort of float away. I don't know. But I never did somehow decide to do that as a means to an end. I got committed because that happened to me. And in fact, I believe in a number of these other paths. I had this long conversation over some kind of blue fish in Europe with Werner Reichert this particular day, and he expounded this 5-year philosophy. Man, he was extremely articulate about it, about that's the way to live a scientific life. The way he was living it, he had done one 5-year thing that was pretty good. This is what had got him into the Max Planck Institute at Tübingen. He was now on the second one. He didn't expect to spend his life on this. He expected to somehow skim the cream off of this by getting some deep results. That's a perfectly good way to run a scientific life. And I came away kind of convinced after listening to this guy over lunch that day. Yeah, Bonnie? No.
It seems that from this talk that you've gotten a tremendous amount of satisfaction from the personal compliments and the compliments of your students. But following on Dave's question, it seems like the organization, I mean, what sort of satisfaction can you get out of turning the world to finding to understand the mind? I mean, can you get any, or is that just too far away?
No, let's see, there's several things. One of them is there's an omission in my talk. Of all the maxims, I missed one. Which I don't think is a maxim. But it is a fact about my scientific life that I have done everything with other people. All of these areas have been with other investigators, not all of them students. I mean, there's been this lifelong effort with Herb, but there's been Herb and Cliff Shaw and myself, and there's been other configurations of people. In fact, George Robertson was not my student. He dropped out and was not a student after a while. He was a staff member once. So everything has always been cooperative, and in that respect, that's right. And that got missed because somehow this got too personal to pick that up. The experiment in SOAR, which says there's not only a SOAR project but a SOAR community, is clearly an effort to try and move to this other level. Again, not done deliberately. I do very few deliberate things in my life. It has evolved this way. And in fact, that's an ongoing, for those of you who don't know, there is a SOAR project which you are aware of because you hear about it every immigration day, and then you forget about it for a while and hear about it the next immigration day. But there is a SOAR project here that's got quite a few people on it. That project is geographically distributed, not just at where John Laird is at Michigan and Paul Rosenblum is out at USC, but by now there's a kind of an international community of about 100 people, all of whom in fact work in a very common way toward trying to push SOAR. I consider this to be a great adventure to see how that goes. My abstract notion is that that's the way science ought to be. And in fact, when we look, Bonnie has been involved in this, when we look at GOMS and we ask, is GOMS a success? The question we ask is not what have we done for GOMS, but whether there are a bunch of cats out there who we don't know and who don't know us very well, but who are using GOMS, which finally shows that technique breaks free of its originator. I mean, there was a day, for instance, when game theory no longer belonged to John von Neumann. That was a great day for game theory, because in some sense, finally it becomes the property of the scientific community. That's got to happen to any real theory of human cognition. It can no longer be tied to even to a community. It's got to be part of the thing.
I mean, if you choose a goal to outlast you, then what do you get your success from in your life that you live?
Well, let's see. There's several answers to that. One of the things is that I never asked about living a good life. Okay. Secondly, in fact, the way you measure whether you've lived a good life is whether each day has been good. Okay, it's like the issue of visiting in Europe. If you go over in Europe and you're in a city for 3 days, like Paris, and you come out complaining about all the things you didn't do, that's a wrong point of view. If every day you spend in Paris was completely full, you've got nothing to complain